Welcome to Beyond Common Sense. As usual, thank you for stopping on by. We're all so busy, aren't we? So I hope I have something that will help you make it worth your while for listening for just a few moments here. How do you like that title? Wonderful, Wimpy, Weakling. You know, as I get older, I'm reminded more and more that I don't have the strength that I used to have. In my hands, in my grip. Oh, man. Recently I was reminded of that as I was trying to carry too much at one time. And I did make it to my destination, but I thought, Wanda, one of these days, you're not going to be able to do this anymore. My dear husband was reminded of this a couple months ago when he carried something or tried to move something that was too heavy. At least we think that's what caused the problem and the great pain in his back. We are both blessed with good health and strong backs. But he was down and he was in pain. After quite a few days of exercises and ibuprofen for 2 weeks, as was recommended, he was back to his normal self. But we've both been reminded, maybe we better not push as hard as we used to. So, weakness, physical weakness. Is that the same as spiritual weakness? Well, not really. It really isn't at all. In fact, in 2 Corinthians 12:10, Paul says that we are strong when we're weak. What in the world is he talking about? Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecution, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. What in the world is he talking about? How can I take pleasure in infirmities or sicknesses? How do you take pleasure when you are reproached? When someone is perhaps accusing you of something that you're not even guilty of? How about needs? We all have needs. I take pleasure in needs. How in the world do we get to the place of George Mueller, who regularly did not know where the next meal was coming from for the children in his orphanages, and yet he just relied on God? Persecutions? Wow. Distresses? Those things which come not because of my sin, but for Christ's sake. When I am weak, then I am strong. In the book, The Normal Christian Life by Watchman Nee, he talks a lot about our weakness. I'm just going to say a couple of his quotes. He says this: "We may be weak, but looking at our weakness will never make us strong. No trying to feel bad or do penance will help us to be even a little holier. There is no help there. So let us be bold in our approach of the blood. Lord, I do not fully know what the value of the blood is, but I know that the blood has satisfied thee. So the blood is enough for me, and it is my only plea. I see now that whether I have really progressed, whether I have really attained to something or not, is not the point. Whenever I come before thee, it is always on the ground of the precious blood." Wow. He also talks about Satan and how Satan is the one who is always accusing us before the Lord. But here's another quote: "God knows who I am. He knows that from the head to the foot I am full of sin. He knows that I am weakness incarnate, that I can do nothing. The trouble is that I do not know it. I admit that all men are sinners, and that therefore I am a sinner. But I imagine that I am not such a hopeless sinner as some. God must bring us all to the place where we see that we are utterly weak and helpless." And of course, then he goes on and he's talking about salvation, but he's talking about more than salvation in that book. I would strongly suggest you get it out. You can find it online for free, or even just listen to it. There's a lot of truths in there. Isaiah 40:31. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Now, if you notice there, it says, we will mount up with wings like eagles. It's not that we sprout eagle's wings. Sometimes I think that's how we pray to God. That's how we ask for help. We're asking him to do something crazy, something out of the ordinary. So often, that is not how the Lord answers our prayers. He answers them in ways that we can't imagine, but sometimes they're just simply common sense answers. I was recently writing an encouraging note to a friend, and I said in there, you carry a lot of burdens. But then I wrote, no, that is not true, because if you carried your burdens, they would crush you. You give a lot of burdens to the Lord, and that's the only way that we can be strong, when we realize, I cannot do this. I can't do it, Lord. I can't do it. And we go to 1 Peter 5:7, which says, casting all your cares upon him, because he cares for you. We don't do it. God does it. And what a blessing that is. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. He has so many precious promises to us as his dear children. I hope you're claiming those. I hope you're standing on the rock and knowing that whatever you're facing, I don't have to start naming them. I was going to say maybe it is a frustrating toddler, or maybe it is an obnoxious teenager, or maybe it's old age and loneliness. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. He is there to uphold us and to strengthen us. But so often we come whining and focusing on our weaknesses instead of giving them over to him and finding joy and rejoicing, as Paul did, in those weaknesses, knowing that it's those weaknesses that are going to prove God to be strong through us. So often he just has so much he wants to do. But we have to be his hands. We have to be his feet. We have to be his voice. I went a little further in my study of the word weakness and just found some extra little nuggets that I thought I'd share here at the end. In Genesis 33:13, this is where Jacob is going to meet Esau. And he's met him, and they've had that amazing confrontation that turned out okay. But Jacob says this to Esau, my Lord knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and herds which are nursing are with me. And if the men should drive them hard, one day all the flock will die. And he goes on to say, you go ahead, I will lead them gently. What a beautiful picture of what we do as parents and grandparents even. How about Judges 16:7? That would be Samson. He has lying weakness. 3 times he lies to Delilah, saying, if they bite me with this and that and the other thing, then I shall be weak as any other man. He was lying about his weaknesses. And that's kind of a sad one to include. You know, if we're weak, we're in good company. David talks about his weaknesses. Asa talks about his weakness as a king. Job is another one who talks about his weaknesses a lot. And then God strengthens the weak. He sends his message of strength to his children who are weak through Isaiah, Ezekiel, Joel, Zephaniah, Jesus, Paul. They all send messages of encouragement to the weak. In fact, Isaiah 40:29 says this: He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, He increases strength. What a blessing. And then this last one. This has always been such a comfort to Tom and I, because quite frankly, I really don't quite understand why He ever called us into the ministry. We had so little to offer. And yet, this is one of the verses that really convinced Tom, okay, I guess I can do this. I'm feeling very weak. 1 Corinthians 1:27. But God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise. And He has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty. Are you feeling kind of foolish sometimes? You know, it's hard to stand in this world that we live in, and it's not getting any easier. I think there's times when we're going to be very much ridiculed. Many are being ridiculed for only one reason, that they believe in Jesus Christ. They can paint that with a wide brush and say that we're not being tolerant. That is not it at all. But we do have to stand for our faith. And sometimes we just feel pretty weak. It looks pretty hopeless. But isn't that when God comes in and just does the most amazing things? Even His own resurrection. You know, He came in a time when Rome was the strongest power in the known world, and they had it all figured out. They were ruling with great strength, and yet they could not overcome what Jesus Christ was going to do on that cross. They had no understanding of that. They had no understanding of the resurrection. And then, wow, they really didn't get it when these disciples kept multiplying and multiplying until they turned the whole world upside down. Well, you wonderful, wimpy weakling, go out there and do something great with the strength of God. Thanks for listening.